As dusk approached in a small Ohio town, Emily Johnson was walking home from the hospital, holding her daughter Sophia's hand. Her face showed deep fatigue, and her heavy footsteps from completing a 12-hour shift as a nurse echoed on the cobblestone sidewalk. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Sophia said, looking up at her mother with those big brown eyes that were the only light that warmed Emily's heart. 3 years after her divorce, with minimal child support from her ex-husband Michael, Emily was raising her daughter alone. "We'll be at Grandma's house soon, and we can eat something there," Emily replied, gently stroking her daughter's head. For financial reasons, they lived in a small apartment near her mother Margaret's house. Visiting her mother's home for dinner twice a week had become a routine. Margaret's house was an impressive 2-story home in the town center. However, when Emily rang the doorbell, the expression on her mother's face as she came to greet them was far from warm. "Oh, Emily. You're late again," Margaret said, her voice clearly filled with displeasure. With her gray hair neatly arranged and wearing a conservative blue cardigan, she stood in the doorway maintaining her dignified posture. "I'm sorry, Mom. The hospital was busy," Emily said, bowing her head. In front of her mother, she always started by apologizing. When they entered the living room, her sister Jessica was already sitting on the sofa with her son Ethan. Jessica had always been raised as their mother's favorite. Since her marriage, she had been supported by her wealthy husband as a stay-at-home mother, frequently visiting their mother's house with her 5-year-old son Ethan. "Good work today." Jessica's greeting was superficial, and she immediately turned back to their mother. "Mom, Ethan was praised again at his piano lesson. The teacher called him genius-level talent," Jessica said. Margaret's face lit up. "Oh, Ethan really is a wonderful child. He gets it from my bloodline." Emily quietly took Sophia's hand. Her daughter shrank back slightly, seeing her grandmother's reaction. "How was school for Sophia?" Jessica asked formally, but there was no genuine interest in her voice. "I got 100 on my math test today," Sophia answered shyly. However, Margaret's reaction was cold. "I see. But studying alone isn't enough. You need musical and artistic talent like Ethan." Emily bit her lip. The sadness of her daughter's efforts not being recognized welled up in her chest. At the dinner table, the conversation always centered on Ethan. His latest grades, his achievements in various lessons, expectations for his future. Margaret and Jessica continued their conversation as if Emily and Sophia weren't even there. "Ethan will play the lead role in next month's piano recital," Jessica said. "Wonderful. My grandson truly is special," Margaret replied. When Emily tried to serve food to Sophia, Margaret shot her a sharp look. "Emily, don't spoil that child too much. Discipline is important," Margaret said. "Yes, Mom," Emily apologized again. She was used to being criticized about her parenting, but it was painful when it happened in front of her daughter. After dinner, watching Ethan cling to Margaret affectionately, Sophia sadly held onto her mother's arm. "Mommy, doesn't Grandma love me?" Sophia asked. Emily's heart tightened. She didn't know how to answer her daughter's innocent question. "That's not true, Sophia. Grandma loves you too. She just has a different way of showing it," Emily replied. She felt pathetic lying to her daughter. But sometimes, hiding the truth was necessary to protect her daughter's heart. On the way home, Emily was thinking about Sophia's upcoming birthday next week. It was customary to hold the party at Margaret's house every year, but she felt depressed thinking about receiving the same cold treatment again. "Mommy, I'm looking forward to my birthday party," Sophia said innocently. Emily's heart grew even heavier. Not wanting to disappoint her daughter's expectations, Emily forced a smile. "Yes, it will definitely be a wonderful party." However, deep in her heart, she had an uneasy premonition. Every year, imagining her daughter being compared to Ethan and being treated lightly made her chest ache. Still, she had to maintain these family relationships for her daughter's sake. Considering the financial support and the importance of having a grandmother figure for her daughter, she had to endure even if it meant suppressing her own emotions. When they arrived at their apartment, Emily put her daughter to bed and then sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the household budget book. Life continued to be difficult on just a nurse's salary, but telling herself she could do anything for her daughter's smile, Emily ended her long day. One morning, after dropping Sophia off at school, Emily headed to her mother's house. When she had suggested over the phone during the weekend that they discuss the birthday party, Margaret had said, "Let's talk about it in person." When she opened the front door, Jessica was already sitting at the dining table with their mother. Colorful party supply catalogs were spread out on the table. "Oh, Emily. You're late," Margaret said coldly, as if Emily had arrived late for an appointment. In reality, she had arrived well before the agreed time. "Good morning," Emily greeted as she sat in an empty chair. However, Jessica didn't even look her way and continued flipping through the catalog pages. "We've already started our discussion," Margaret said, pointing to the catalog. "There are many things we need to decide about Sophia's birthday party preparations." Emily was confused. "But we haven't discussed anything yet, have we?" "You're busy, so we went ahead and got started," Jessica said, looking up for the first time. "Since you're tired from work, we're saying we'll do everything for you." Emily felt anxiety in her chest. "But this is Sophia's birthday party, so I'd like to be involved in the decisions too." Margaret frowned. "Emily, you always say unnecessary things. Do you understand how much consideration we're showing for you?" "I am grateful, but..." "If you're grateful, then listen quietly," Margaret said sternly. "First, we've decided on the cake." Jessica ordered a chocolate cake. "It's Ethan's favorite flavor." Emily was surprised. "But Sophia likes strawberry cake." "Children's preferences change over time," Jessica answered coldly. "Besides, we have to consider the people coming to the party." "The people coming to the party?" Emily was confused. "I was planning to invite some of Sophia's friends." Margaret and Jessica exchanged glances. "Emily, you don't understand reality," Margaret sighed. "This party is for real family to celebrate. Just the three of us, plus Ethan and Sophia. That's enough." Emily's heart began racing. "What do you mean by real family?" "Exactly what it sounds like," Jessica sneered. "Blood-related, real family. There's no need to invite outsiders." Emily imagined her daughter's disappointed face. Sophia was really looking forward to inviting her school friends to the birthday party. "But Sophia wants to invite her friends," Emily said. "Always granting children's wishes is spoiling them too much," Margaret said with a stern expression. "You're always too lenient with Sophia. That's why she becomes selfish." Emily tried to argue, but Margaret raised her hand to stop her. "The discussion is over. Now let's talk about decorations." Opening the catalog, Margaret pointed to blue and gold decorations. "We've decided on these. They're elegant and sophisticated colors." "But Sophia likes pink and purple," Emily's voice grew quieter. "Pink and purple are too childish," Jessica laughed mockingly. "She still likes such immature colors?" "Ethan has much more mature taste." Emily took a deep breath. "Sophia is still a child. There's nothing wrong with liking childish colors." Margaret's eyes flashed coldly. "Emily, you really don't understand how much we're thinking about you and Sophia." "What do you mean by thinking about us?" Emily asked. "You couldn't survive without our help, could you?" Jessica continued. "Do you think you can live a decent life on just your salary?" Emily felt humiliated. It was true that things were financially difficult, but she couldn't accept having Sophia's birthday party decided arbitrarily for that reason. "I'm grateful, but that's separate from Sophia's birthday party," Emily said. "It's not separate," Margaret stood up. "Everything is connected. If you're benefiting from our kindness, you should listen to what we say." At that moment, the front door opened and Ethan came running in. "Grandma." Ethan jumped into Margaret's arms. Margaret's face instantly softened as she embraced her grandson. "Ethan, how was school?" she asked. "It was really fun. The teacher praised my drawing," Ethan replied. "Oh, how wonderful." Margaret's eyes crinkled with delight. "Ethan really is such a talented child." Emily's chest ached at the contrast between this warmth and the coldness she received. By the way, Grandma, Ethan said innocently, when is Sophia's birthday party? Margaret showed a momentarily puzzled expression. Next Saturday. Can I come? Ethan asked. Of course. You're a special child, Margaret replied. Emily was hurt by the phrase, special child. So her daughter wasn't special? That evening, Emily returned home with heavy steps. Sophia was waiting for her mother's return while doing homework. Mommy, welcome home. How did the birthday party discussion go? Sophia asked with expectant eyes. Emily didn't know how to explain. Grandma and Aunt Jessica are preparing a lovely party for you, Emily said. Can I invite my friends? Sophia asked. Emily's heart ached. This time, I think we'll celebrate with just family. Sophia's face clouded. Why? Grandma says she wants to make it a special family-only party, Emily explained. I wanted to invite Sarah and Emma, Sophia said in a small voice. Next time, we'll invite your friends on another occasion, Emily said, hugging her daughter. Mommy will throw you a separate little party. Really? Sophia asked. I promise, Emily said. However, considering her financial situation, Emily didn't know how she could manage to throw another party. By midweek, Margaret called. Emily, please help prepare the food for the day, she said. Yes, Mom, Emily replied. And dress Sophia in her regular clothes. There's no need for her to wear anything special, Margaret added. Emily was confused. But it's a birthday party. We're a modest family. Fancy clothes don't suit us, Margaret said. After hanging up, Emily remembered Ethan's birthday party last year. At that time, Margaret had bought him a new suit and took countless photos, calling him like a prince. On Friday night, Emily couldn't sleep. Thinking about tomorrow's party made her chest tight with anxiety. Sophia was excited and had trouble falling asleep. Mommy, will tomorrow really be a fun party? Sophia asked. It will definitely be a wonderful party, Emily replied, stroking her daughter's hair. However, deep in her heart, she couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was going to happen. Saturday morning, as Emily dressed her daughter in simple clothes, she felt anxiety stirring in her chest. Sophia looked somewhat unsatisfied in front of the mirror but said nothing. Are you ready? Emily asked. Sophia nodded slightly. Mommy, today will really be a happy day, won't it? Sophia asked. Emily smiled, but a storm was raging in her heart. At 2 p.m. on Saturday, Emily and Sophia arrived at Margaret's house. When they opened the front door, they saw the living room decorated with blue and gold ornaments. It was certainly elegant, but it felt too mature and cold. Sophia, happy birthday, Margaret said in a formal tone. She didn't embrace her granddaughter, merely giving her a light kiss on the cheek. Thank you, Grandma, Sophia replied, looking somewhat nervous. Dressed in her regular clothes, she seemed out of place among the fancy decorations. Where's Ethan? Emily asked. Jessica appeared from the kitchen. My son is absorbed in his new game. He'll come down later. Emily placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Sophia looked around with a somewhat uncomfortable expression. Sophia, I have a present for you, Margaret said, holding out a small box. Sophia's face brightened slightly. Thank you, Grandma, she said. When she opened the box, there was a plain brown hair clip inside. It wasn't a bad gift, but it wasn't something that would delight a 7-year-old girl. It's lovely, Sophia, Emily said encouragingly. Sophia smiled, but the smile seemed forced. I have a present too, Jessica said, bringing another box. Inside was a practical set of socks. Thank you, Aunt Jessica, Sophia replied politely. Emily could sense her daughter's disappointment. She remembered that at Ethan's birthday last year, he had received many expensive toys and clothes. Just then, they heard footsteps running down the stairs, and Ethan appeared. He was holding a new game console and looked excited. Sophia, happy birthday, Ethan said with a somewhat condescending tone. He sometimes took a looking down attitude towards Sophia. Thank you, Ethan, Sophia replied kindly. I got a new game console. It's really expensive, Ethan said boastfully. Margaret's face relaxed. Ethan is a special child, she said, patting her grandson's head. Outstanding children deserve appropriate treatment. Emily clenched her fists. Why was there such a difference in treatment from the same grandmother? Now, let's have dinner, Jessica said, starting to bring food to the table. The menu consisted entirely of Ethan's favorite foods, with no consideration for Sophia's preferences. During the meal, the conversation was dominated by talk about Ethan, as usual. His grades at school, his achievements in various lessons, expectations for his future. Sophia ate quietly, occasionally looking up at her mother. By the way, Sophia, Margaret suddenly spoke up. What kind of lessons are you taking lately? I'm taking ballet, Sophia answered in a small voice. Ballet? Jessica laughed mockingly. Spending so much money on that, will it be useful in the future? Emily's face reddened. Sophia loves ballet. What you love and what's practical are different things, Margaret said coldly. If she had real talent like Ethan's piano, that would be different. Emily couldn't stand it anymore. Sophia has talent too. Her teacher praises her. You always build Sophia up too much, Jessica said with exasperation. Face reality. At that moment, tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. Emily took her daughter's hand. It's okay, Sophia, Emily said. Now, it's time for cake, Margaret said, standing up and bringing a chocolate cake from the kitchen. The cake was certainly beautiful, but despite having 7 candles lit, it somehow lacked a festive atmosphere. Sophia, make a wish and blow out the candles, Margaret said in a commanding tone. Sophia closed her eyes, thought for a moment, then blew out the candles. What did you wish for? Ethan asked curiously. I wished for everyone to be happy, Sophia answered purely. Emily's chest warmed at her daughter's innocent response. Margaret took the cake knife in her hand. At that moment, her expression suddenly changed. A cold, intimidating atmosphere filled the room. Wait, Margaret said, holding the cake knife high. This cake is only for real grandchildren. Emily froze. Mom, what are you saying? Exactly what I said, Margaret's eyes flashed cruelly. Only real blood-related grandchildren have the right to eat this cake. Sophia looked up at her grandmother with a confused expression. Grandma, I'm your granddaughter too, aren't I? Margaret smiled cruelly. You're different, Sophia. You're not a real granddaughter. Stop it. Emily stood up. Sophia hasn't done anything wrong. The one doing something wrong is you, Emily, Jessica said with a sneer. You're always depending on us and being presumptuous. At that moment, Jessica suddenly stood up and grabbed the cake. This is enough, she said. Unbelievably, Jessica smashed the beautiful chocolate cake onto the floor. The cake shattered on the floor, with chocolate and cream splattering everywhere. Dog food is good enough for you, Jessica said mockingly. Sophia stood there, unable to understand what was happening, but gradually began to comprehend the situation. Seeing her birthday cake smashed on the floor and being called something dirty, her heart couldn't bear it. Sophia began to cry. Her crying echoed throughout the room, tearing at Emily's heart. Sophia, it's okay, Emily tried to comfort her daughter. At that moment, Margaret took a terrible action. Stop crying, Margaret shouted. Margaret grabbed Sophia's long hair and pulled it roughly. Stop it, Emily screamed. But Margaret dragged Sophia by her hair. A child like you doesn't even have the right to cry, Margaret yelled. Sophia screamed in pain and fear. Emily desperately tried to stop Margaret, but she continued dragging Sophia with tremendous force. Let go of her hair. Sophia will get hurt, Emily pleaded. However, Margaret wouldn't listen. Jessica stood with her arms crossed, watching the scene coldly. Ethan was hiding in the corner of the room, frightened. Then something terrible happened. Sophia's crying suddenly stopped. And her small body began to convulse. Sophia. Emily rushed over to find her daughter's eyes rolled back and her body trembling. This is a seizure. Using her knowledge as a nurse, Emily immediately understood the situation. Call an ambulance. Margaret and Jessica suddenly turned pale. What's happening? Jessica asked in a trembling voice. It's a stress-induced seizure. She needs to be taken to the hospital immediately. Emily calmly dealt with the situation while calling 911 on her cell phone. Until they could hear the ambulance sirens, the room was enveloped in an eerie silence. Sophia had lost consciousness, and Emily watched over her daughter prayerfully. The emergency room at St. Mary's General Hospital was wrapped in the typical Saturday evening bustle. Emily followed her daughter's stretcher, watching the doctors respond quickly. The attending physician, Dr. Richardson, quickly examined Sophia's condition while asking Emily questions. "Ma'am, please tell me in detail what happened just before the seizure," he said. Emily answered in a trembling voice. "At my daughter's birthday party, she was subjected to terrible treatment by family members." "Specifically, what kind of treatment?" "My mother grabbed my daughter's hair and dragged her, my sister smashed the cake on the floor, and they subjected her to humiliating words." Dr. Richardson's expression grew stern. So there was physical violence. Sophia was beginning to regain consciousness but was still in a dazed state. The doctor carefully examined her entire body. Then he discovered multiple scars on Sophia's scalp and arms. "Ma'am, could you explain these scars?" he asked. Emily was puzzled. "Which scars?" The doctor pointed with his flashlight. "Here on the scalp and here on the arm. They don't appear to be from today, but seem to be from before." Emily was shocked. There were indeed small scars, but she hadn't noticed them before. "I don't know where they came from," Emily said. "Ma'am, please be honest with me. These are typical signs of child abuse," the doctor said. "Abuse?" Emily was confused. "I have never abused my daughter." Dr. Richardson chose his words carefully. "I'm not saying you're the perpetrator. However, it's possible that someone has been subjecting this child to continuous violence." In Emily's mind, memories from the past came flooding back. After Sophia returned from her grandmother's house, she would sometimes be in a bad mood or complain about pain somewhere on her body. However, she had assumed it was just normal childhood behavior. "The hospital has an obligation to contact Child Protective Services," the doctor said. Emily's heart began racing at those words. "But Ma'am, I'm not suspecting you. In fact, based on today's situation, you might also be a victim." An hour later, Mrs. Thompson, a social worker from Child Protective Services, arrived. She was a woman in her 50s who had worked to protect children for many years. "Ms. Johnson, please tell me in detail about what happened today," she said. Emily tearfully told her everything that had happened at the birthday party. Mrs. Thompson listened carefully while taking notes. "Ma'am, has Sophia ever been subjected to violence from her grandmother or aunt before?" "Today was the first time in front of me." But, Emily hesitated, sometimes when Sophia came home from her grandmother's house, she would act strangely. "What kind of behavior?" "She would become quiet or cling to me. But I thought she was just tired." Mrs. Thompson nodded. Children often stay silent about unpleasant experiences to avoid worrying adults. At that moment, a call came from the hospital reception. "Ms. Johnson, we need to discuss billing matters." Emily was confused. It wasn't time to discuss medical expenses yet. When she went to the reception, the clerk smiled and said, "Regarding Sophia's medical expenses, they have already been paid in full." "What?" "I haven't paid anything yet. An anonymous person just paid them. It was quite a substantial advance payment that will cover future medical expenses as well." Emily was confused. "Who paid for it?" "I'm sorry, but since it was an anonymous payment, we can't provide details." When Emily returned to the hospital room, Mrs. Thompson was waiting. "Ms. Johnson, the police have arrived. They'd like to take a statement about today's incident." Detective Miller was a specialist in domestic violence cases. "Ms. Johnson, today's events clearly constitute child abuse. We're beginning a formal investigation of your mother and sister." "But they're family," Emily said. "Being family doesn't make such behavior acceptable," Detective Miller said sternly. "Especially the act of grabbing hair and dragging, that's serious physical abuse." At that moment, an unknown man entered the hospital room. He appeared to be in his 60s, a distinguished gentleman wearing an expensive suit. "Excuse me, I'm Robert Hamilton. I'd like to speak with you." Emily was wary. "Who are you?" "Actually, I'm the one who paid for your medical expenses," he said. Everyone was surprised. Robert quietly continued. "Emily, you are my daughter." "What are you talking about?" "My father died when I was young." "That's a lie," Robert said, tears welling up in his eyes. "You were kidnapped 32 years ago when you were 3 years old. I've been searching for you ever since." Emily stood up. "This is ridiculous. My mother raised me." "Margaret Davis is the person who kidnapped you," Robert said heavily. "She was working as a housekeeper in my home at the time." Detective Miller stepped forward. "Mr. Hamilton, this is a serious accusation. Do you have evidence?" Robert took documents from his briefcase. DNA test results, police investigation files, and a private investigator's report. Emily stared at the documents but couldn't comprehend them. "But why wasn't I found until now?" "Margaret was clever," Robert explained. "She changed your name, moved to a distant town, and completely falsified your identity. And by raising you together with her real daughter Jessica, she avoided suspicion." "Jessica is really my mother's daughter?" "Yes. That's why she never treated you as a sister and was always hostile toward you." In Emily's mind, all the discriminatory treatment she had received connected. Why she alone had been treated coldly, why only Jessica had been loved. "Then, my real family is?" Robert's face brightened. "I'm the founder of Hamilton Corporation. You have a brother and sister. Everyone has been waiting for your return." Mrs. Thompson spoke up. "If this is true, Margaret Davis and Jessica Davis will be charged with kidnapping and child abuse." Detective Miller made a phone call. "Headquarters? Please issue arrest warrants for Margaret Davis and Jessica Davis." Emily sat beside Sophia's bed. Her daughter was still sleeping but had a peaceful expression. "Sophia, you have a great-grandfather," Emily said, tears streaming down her face as she held her daughter's hand. "From now on, we can live with a family that truly loves us." Robert placed his hand on Emily's shoulder. "Our family welcomes you and Sophia wholeheartedly. You'll never be hurt by anyone again." Outside the hospital room, Margaret and Jessica could be seen being led away by police. They would pay the price for 30 years of lies and abuse. Emily gazed out the window, feeling the beginning of a new life. 6 months later, at the Hamilton family's vast mansion in the suburbs of Boston, Sophia's birthday party was being held. Colorful balloons danced on the lawn, and children's laughter echoed through the air. "Sophia, over here," her school friends called, waving their hands. Surrounded by pink and purple decorations, Sophia looked truly happy. A beautiful strawberry cake had candles lit on it. Emily watched this scene quietly from a corner of the garden. Surrounded by her brother Michael and sister Sarah, she felt the warmth of a real family for the first time. "Emily, can you believe it?" "When I think about that time," Sarah said, placing her hand on her sister's shoulder. "We never stopped looking for you." "It still feels like a dream," Emily smiled. "Seeing Sophia so happy makes me feel like everything was worth it." Their father Robert approached them. "My granddaughter is truly a wonderful child. You raised her splendidly all by yourself." "I wasn't alone," Emily said, looking up at her father. "Because Sophia was with me, I was able to stay strong too." The trial had ended 3 months ago. Margaret Davis received a 15-year prison sentence for kidnapping, child abuse, and fraud. Jessica received a 5-year sentence with 3 years probation as an accomplice. Both were completely isolated from the community, and Ethan was taken in by relatives. When I think about Margaret, I have complicated feelings, Emily murmured. She did kidnap and abuse me, but she also raised me for 30 years. Your kindness is admirable, Robert said. However, love requires freedom and respect. Control and abuse are not love. Michael spoke up. Emily, you're a legitimate heir to Hamilton Corporation. The board of directors has approved it. But I want to continue working as a nurse, Emily shook her head. I'll leave the company matters to you brothers and sisters. I love work that helps people. That's a choice worthy of you, Robert said proudly. However, you don't need to worry about finances at all. There's more than enough trust fund money prepared for you and Sophia. At that moment, Sophia came running over. Mommy, look. New ballet shoes from Grandpa. Sophia was wearing beautiful pink ballet shoes and spun around. They're lovely, Sophia, Emily said, hugging her daughter. You can start at a new ballet school tomorrow. Really? Sophia's eyes sparkled. Will the teacher say I have talent? She'll definitely say that, Sarah smiled. Because Sophia is a special child. Emily teared up. The phrase special child was now being used with love. That evening, after the party ended, Emily and Sophia were relaxing in their new room. The beautiful room in the Hamilton mansion was decorated in Sophia's favorite pink and purple. Mommy, today was really fun, Sophia said, lying on the bed. Grandpa, uncle, and aunt are all so kind. Yes. This is what real family love is, Emily said, gently stroking her daughter's hair. Sophia, you are a special child who deserves to be loved. Mommy deserves to be loved too, Sophia said, looking up at her mother with pure eyes. We don't have to be sad anymore, do we? No, it's all right now, Emily promised. From now on, we'll be with people who truly love us. Outside the window, the Boston nightscape sparkled beautifully. Emily felt that the long nightmare days were over and a new life had begun. She had learned firsthand that what's more important than blood relations is love. And now, embraced by the love of a real family, mother and daughter fell into peaceful sleep. Emily understood from the bottom of her heart that a true family is not about blood connections, but about bonds formed by unconditional love and respect.